You're sitting at your kitchen table with a notebook, a calculator, and what started as a productive Saturday morning that has slowly turned into an existential crisis. You've got student loans on one sticky note, your 401k contribution rate on another, a credit card balance that's been hovering around the same number for 8 months, no emergency fund to speak of, and a vague memory of someone telling you that you should have started investing at 22. You're 34. And every single financial priority feels equally urgent, equally important, and equally impossible to tackle at the same time. So you do what most people do. You close the notebook, make another coffee, and tell yourself you'll figure it out next weekend. Here's what nobody tells you about building wealth in your 30s. It's not about how much you're saving. It's not about which accounts you're using or which index funds you've picked. The single biggest factor determining whether you end up financially free or financially stuck is the order in which you do things. And most people in their 30s are doing it in completely the wrong order, not because they're irresponsible or uninformed, but because nobody has ever laid out the actual sequence in a way that makes sense for this specific decade of life. My name is Parker, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial sequencing, and why two people can earn the exact same income in their 30s and end up in completely different financial universes by the time they hit 50. If you're someone who's tired of feeling like you're throwing money at problems without making real progress, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up giving you the clarity you've been looking for. Now, before we get into the actual steps, I need to make something clear, because this changes everything about how you approach the next 10 years. Your 30s are not just another decade. They are mathematically the most important decade of your entire financial life. And I don't mean that in a motivational poster kind of way. I mean it in a cold, hard, compound interest kind of way. Here's why. Let's say you invest $500 per month starting at age 30, and you earn an average 8% annual return. By the time you're 60, you've got roughly $745,000. Now let's say you wait until 40 to start. Same $500 per month, same 8% return. By 60, you've got about $294,000. That's not a small difference. That's a $450,000 gap from a single decade of delay. The money you don't invest in your 30s doesn't just fail to grow, it fails to grow for 30 years. Every year you spend doing this in the wrong order is a year of compounding you will never get back. But here's the other side of this that most financial content completely ignores. Your 30s are also the decade where life throws the most competing financial demands at you all at once. Maybe you're buying a home or thinking about it. Maybe you've got kids or that's on the horizon. Maybe you're finally making real money but somehow still feel broke. Maybe your student loans from a degree you finished a decade ago are still quietly draining your paycheck every month. The pressure is coming from every direction simultaneously, and the natural human response is to try to address everything a little bit at a time. A little extra toward the loans, a small bump in the 401k contribution, maybe open a savings account you never really fund. Doing a little bit of everything feels productive, but financially it's one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Because when you spread your financial energy across 5 priorities at once, you're not making real progress on any of them. You're not eliminating the things that are actively destroying your wealth. You're not capturing the guaranteed returns that are sitting right in front of you. You're not building the foundation that makes everything else possible. You're just treading water while the clock on compound interest keeps running. The framework I'm about to walk you through doesn't ask you to do everything at once. It asks you to do the right thing first, then the next right thing, then the next. And when you follow this sequence, the math starts working for you instead of against you. So, let's get into it. Step 1. Before you invest a single dollar, you need to kill your wealth destroyers. And the biggest wealth destroyer hiding in most people's 30s isn't what they think it is. Most people assume it's their debt. And yes, high-interest debt is a serious problem we'll get to in a moment. But the wealth destroyer that does the most silent damage in your 30s is lifestyle creep. This is what happens when your income grows but your savings rate stays the same or gets worse, because your expenses have quietly expanded to absorb every raise you've ever received. You're making $30,000 more per year than you were at 27, and somehow you feel exactly as financially tight. That's lifestyle creep, and it's the reason so many people in their 30s have impressive salaries and almost nothing to show for it. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires honesty. Before you do anything else, you need to know where every dollar is actually going right now, not where you think it's going, where it's actually going. Because most people in their 30s have significant money quietly leaking out through subscriptions they forgot about, recurring charges they never canceled, upgraded versions of things they genuinely don't need, and a general tendency to spend at the level that feels appropriate for someone making their income. Once you've identified the leaks, plug them. Redirect that money. You're not cutting your quality of life, you're redirecting spending that wasn't improving your life anyway toward things that will fundamentally change it. Now, we get to the actual high-interest debt. And I mean anything charging you more than 8% annually. Credit cards at 22%, personal loans at 15%, any debt where the interest rate is higher than what you could reasonably expect to earn in the market. This debt is not neutral. It is actively working against you every single day. Every month you carry a $10,000 credit card balance at 22% interest, you're paying around $183 in interest charges. That's money that does nothing for you. It doesn't build equity, it doesn't compound, it doesn't grow into anything. It just disappears into a bank's revenue while you wonder why you're not getting ahead. Eliminating this debt first isn't just mathematically optimal. It is the prerequisite for everything else on this list working the way it's supposed to. Step 2. Build an emergency fund that's actually sized for your 30s life. Now, I know you heard this before, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Yes, but here's what most financial content doesn't acknowledge. The emergency fund you needed at 25 is not the emergency fund you need at 35. At 25, your life was simpler. Maybe you were renting a small apartment, driving an older car, no kids, minimal obligations. At 35, the stakes are completely different. You might have a mortgage with a payment that doesn't stop because you lost your job. You might have kids whose needs don't pause for your financial emergency. You might have a car that's out of warranty and a body that's reminding you that medical expenses are real. For most people in their 30s, 3 months of expenses is the minimum, and it's a fragile minimum. 6 months is the target, and if you're self-employed, freelancer, or work in a volatile industry, you should be thinking about 8 to 12 months. I know that sounds like a lot, but here's what that cushion actually does for you. It means that when life happens, and it will happen, you don't have to liquidate investments at the worst possible time, rack up high-interest debt to cover an emergency, or make career decisions out of pure desperation. Your emergency fund isn't just protection, it's the thing that keeps every other step on this list from unraveling the moment reality shows up uninvited. Step 3. Capture every guaranteed return available to you. And this is where most people in their 30s are leaving enormous amounts of money on the table without even realizing it. If your employer offers matching contributions to your retirement plan, you need to contribute enough to get every single dollar of that match before you do almost anything else. I want to be very clear about why. Employer matching is a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on your money the moment you contribute it. There is no investment on earth that offers that kind of immediate guaranteed return. Not index funds, not real estate, not anything. If your employer matches 50 cents on the dollar up to 6% of your salary and you're making $90,000 a year, that's $2,700 in free money annually that you are currently walking away from if you're not capturing the full match. Over 10 years with investment growth, that uncaptured match could represent $50,000 or more that simply never existed in your portfolio. That's not a small oversight. That's a meaningful chunk of your financial future that you handed back to your employer. If your employer offers a health savings account, this is the other guaranteed return most people completely ignore. HSAs come with 3 separate tax advantages simultaneously. Your contributions are tax-deductible, your money grows tax-free, and your withdrawals from medical expenses are completely tax-free. No other account does all 3 of those things. For 2025, you can contribute up to $4,300 for individual coverage or $8,550 for families. And here's the strategy that makes HSAs incredibly powerful in your 30s specifically. If you can cover your current medical expenses out of pocket, let the HSA money stay invested. Keep your receipts because there's no time limit on reimbursements. You could pay a doctor bill today, keep the receipt, and reimburse yourself tax-free from your HSA in 15 years. Meanwhile, that money has been compounding in the market the entire time. Step 4. Build your tax-advantaged foundation. Once you've captured your employer match and maxed your HSA contributions, it's time to maximize your IRA before you go back and increase your 401k contributions beyond the match. Here's why this order matters. Your IRA gives you complete control over your investment choices and almost always comes with dramatically lower fees than your employer's 401k plan. The fee difference between a typical corporate 401k and a self-directed IRA invested in low-cost index funds might look like 1 percentage point. That sounds meaningless until you run the math. On a $200,000 portfolio over 20 years, a 1 percentage point fee difference costs you roughly $60,000 in lost returns. You're not just paying a fee, you're paying a fee that then fails to compound for 2 decades. For 2025, you can contribute up to $7,000 to an IRA or $8,000 if you're 50 or older. Max that out first, then go back to your 401k and increase contributions beyond the match up to the annual limit of $23,500. Once you've got IRA, HSA, and 401k contributions maximized, you're potentially sheltering $35,000 or more annually from current taxation. That's real money compounding without the IRS taking their cut every year. And in your 30s, that tax protection working over the next 20 to 30 years is worth more than most people realize. One note on the traditional versus Roth question, because it matters at this stage. If you're in your peak earning years and in a high tax bracket right now, traditional contributions that reduce your current taxable income often make more sense. If you're still in a lower bracket and expect your income to grow significantly, Roth contributions, where you pay taxes now and withdraw tax-free in retirement, often win. When in doubt, split between both. Tax diversification in retirement gives you flexibility that pure traditional or pure Roth simply can't. Step 5. Make your first real wealth-building move beyond retirement accounts. This is the step that separates people who are comfortable in retirement from people who have genuine financial freedom before retirement. Once your tax-advantaged accounts are maximized, every additional dollar you invest goes into taxable investment accounts. And yes, there's a tax drag here that doesn't exist in your retirement accounts. Dividends get taxed, capital gains get taxed when you sell. But taxable accounts offer something retirement accounts can't: complete flexibility. No contribution limits, no withdrawal restrictions, no penalty for accessing the money at 45 instead of 65.
This is where your wealth actually starts to compound into something that gives you options beyond just retirement. Maybe you want to retire at 55. Maybe you want to take a year off to start a business. Maybe you want to make a down payment on an investment property. Taxable investment accounts are the bridge between your retirement savings and your real-world financial freedom. Keep it simple here. Low-cost, broad market index funds. Minimize turnover to reduce your tax burden. Let time and compounding do the work. The boring strategy wins almost every time. Now, I want to show you exactly why this sequence matters so much by introducing 2 households. We'll call them the Morgans and the Kellys. Both households earn $95,000 per year. Both are 32 years old. Both have a credit card balance of $8,000 and a 401k with a 50% employer match up to 6% of salary. The Morgans hear that they should be investing for retirement, and they start contributing 10% to their 401k immediately, capturing the full match plus extra. They feel great about this, but they still have that $8,000 credit card balance at 21% interest, and they never built a real emergency fund. 8 months later, their HVAC system dies and the repair costs $4,500. They don't have savings, so they put it on another credit card. Now they've got $12,500 in high-interest debt. 2 years after that, the market drops 25% and the Morgans panic because their emergency fund still doesn't exist and they're not sure they can cover next month's expenses if something goes wrong. They reduce their 401k contribution to 3% to free up cash. They've captured half their employer match and lost years of compounding at full contribution levels, all because the order was wrong. The Kellys do something different. They spend the first 8 months eliminating that $8,000 in credit card debt aggressively. They contribute only enough to their 401k to capture the full employer match during this period, not a dollar more.
Once the debt is gone, they redirect the $600 per month they were spending on debt payments directly into building a 5-month emergency fund. Once that's done, they maximize their IRA. Then they go back and increase 401k contributions. Then they open a taxable account. Same income as the Morgans the entire time. Different sequence entirely. Fast forward to age 50. The Morgans have a 401k with around $180,000 in it. They still have $6,000 in lingering credit card debt. They've never quite gotten traction. The Kellys have $340,000 in retirement accounts, no high-interest debt, and $45,000 in a taxable investment account they've been building for 8 years. Same income, different order. A $200,000 gap in net worth from the sequencing alone. Here's something I want you to hear directly, because I think it's the most important thing in this entire video. If you're in your 30s and you feel behind, the feeling is almost certainly real. But the reason you feel behind is almost certainly not what you think it is. Most people assume they feel behind because they haven't earned enough or haven't saved enough or missed some window that's now closed forever. But the actual reason most people in their 30s feel behind is much simpler. They've been doing the right things in the wrong order, contributing to a 401k while carrying credit card debt, building investment portfolios while skipping the emergency fund that would have prevented them from liquidating those investments during the first crisis, trying to do all 5 steps simultaneously and making meaningful progress on none of them. You're not behind because you're bad with money. You're behind because you've been unsequenced. And that is a completely fixable problem starting right now. Kill the wealth destroyers. Build your emergency cushion. Capture every guaranteed return. Build your tax-advantaged foundation. Then make your first real wealth-building move. In that order, every time, without skipping steps because one feels more exciting than another. Your 30s are the decade where the gap between people who build real wealth and people who spend their whole lives wondering what happened gets established. Not because of income differences, not because of luck, because of sequence. Because of who did the boring foundational work first and then let compounding do what compounding does when you finally give it the right foundation to build on. The person who follows this order isn't the most exciting investor in the room. They're not the one talking about individual stocks at dinner parties or timing the market with their latest thesis. They're the one who quietly retires 10 years before everyone else and actually enjoys it. Start the sequence today, because 10 years from now, the only thing you'll regret is not starting it sooner.